Hello, hello, hello. Givebutter fam, I see you all entering in. So excited to see you guys. We are so excited to be having each of you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you file in, I would love to hear your name, where you're calling from, and one word or one sentence to describe your ideal board member, okay? So your name, where you're calling from, and a name and a sentence or a word to describe your dream board member. Courtney, oh, I love that. Involved. Come on, somebody. I love that. Mariella says engaged. I love that. That's so good. And as everyone is joining in, well, so many of you guys so far, I love to see it. Let's hear your name, where you're calling from, and a word or sentence to describe your dream board member. Stefan from Austin, dream board member would be fundraising master. I think we all need that. That's a board member, that's a best friend, that's a volunteer, that's everything. I love that. Patty from Pennsylvania says energetic. Jessica, oh, come on, Jessica. Active, engaged, and involved. I love it. Corey says fundraising evangelist. I love it. I love it. Y'all, well, what we're doing, as you can see on the screen, I'd love to see your name, organization or cause, where you're calling from, and one sentence to describe your dream board member, a word or sentence. I love it. Michelle says engaged action taker. Come on, somebody. I love that. Michelle, okay, this is good. Amy says a great storyteller. I love that. Kim says, I love my board member could be proactive with their support. I love that. Casey says, Casey from Florida, I know, sunny and hot. I heard that. You want someone who's passionate. I love it. I love it. Trisha wants a master connector. Kathleen wants someone who is passionate. I love, 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 love. Carolyn says wealthy. Come on, somebody. Carolyn, you better tell the truth. You better go right on ahead and let us know, okay? I love it. Well, I'm so happy to have you all here. Givebutter fam, it is so, so, so good to see you all. I'm your guest. I'm your host today, Floyd, and I'm so happy to have each and every one of you. Guys, we have the best guest today, okay? Let me tell y'all about Sabrina Walker Hernandez, okay? She is a certified board expert, and you guys are going to be blown away. One thing that I have loved so far is all the questions and comments I've been getting from everybody about boards, how to build an active and engaged board, some of the hiccups and the hurdles you've been facing in building your boards. And I want you to know that today we are going to dive deep into all of those, okay? Are y'all ready to get started? Because if you are, you already know I want you to chat back with me, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen. So today, we have so many things that we're going to talk about today, and I'm so excited. As you all know, I am your host. I am calling from Detroit, Michigan. I am the community and partnerships lead here at Givebutter, and I've worked with small organizations my entire career. And fun fact, I've had the pleasure of building over 4 different boards in less than 2 years. So I have seen some of the hiccups and hurdles that we're going to talk about today, and I'm so excited to be able to share a lot more of them with you all. So we just finished our welcome and introductions. We have a few announcements that we're going to share, and then we're going to do a deep dive into board engagement. Make sure you guys are using the live Q&A feature because we're going to dive deep into the questions that you guys have had. And like I said, we've been getting questions from all over, from our Facebook fam, from LinkedIn. I've been getting email questions. We are going to dive into all of those today. And then of course, we're going to end with some reminders to keep y'all in the loop. You guys know the reminders. Use that Q&A feature to ask questions. One of my favorite things about the Givebutter team and the Givebutter fam is that we love to chat, okay? So make sure you use the Q&A specifically if you have questions for myself or our expert today. You know, use emojis in the chat. If you're happy to be here, I want to know that. I want to see the emojis going. I want to see the golden hearts. I want to see some amens in there. Whatever it is, put it in the chat so we can talk back and really be engaged. Obviously, keep the chat kind and respectful because we are one big team. We are one big Givebutter fam. Before sending a message in the chat, make sure you're sending it to everyone and not just the hosts and panelists, okay? Make sure you're sending it to everyone. Grace is up from our team is here. She will be answering any questions that you guys have. And then if you are in the Facebook fam, y'all, let me tell you something now, okay? The Facebook fam is heating up, okay? We are doing lives. I'm dropping videos. We're doing polls. People are asking questions. So if you are in the Facebook fam, can you chat I'm in the chat? I want to see who's in there. I know my friend Jessica's in. I know Grace is in. I know who else is in. Let me see in the chat. Who is in there? Who's in there? Adrian said the Facebook group is hot right now. Exactly. Todd's in. Come on, somebody. Anna's in. Come on, somebody. Who else is in? I'm awake. You know I'm awake. Okay. Samar's in. Who else is in? Tracy, are you in? I hope so. Cindy's in. Come on, somebody. Well, I hope that you are in this Facebook fam. And if you are not, Grace from our team is going to drop the link to join the party. Okay. Because we are going, diving deep in there. And I want to make sure I see your lovely faces in there as well. So I can get to know you more because you know, we a fam, okay? Elizabeth says, I want in. Yes, make sure you drop that link. All right, y'all, it's poll time, okay? We are gonna dive deep into our first poll. And I wanna know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how engaged is your board? So 1 means not at all, and 10 means super engaged, okay? So we're gonna drop this poll right now, and I wanna see, on a scale of 1 to 10, how engaged is your current board, okay? 1 being not at all, AKA what is a board, okay? And 10 being super engaged. So they're, like someone said in the chat, wealthy, active, engaged, fundraising. Let's see where you guys fall, okay? Wow, I'm seeing a little bit of a mix between all of them right now. Okay, keep on voting. We're about 70% of the way there. Let me see. Where are you guys falling on this list? 1, not at all. 10, super engaged. Maybe 10 is like a mean. I'm just kidding. I want to see where they're at, where you guys are at. Let's say few more seconds. Okay, let's see. So we are all across the board. Unfortunately, no one is at a 9 or a 10, but we're seeing a majority of people fall in that middle camp between the 4, 5, 6, 7 range. So my hope is that by the end of today's session, you will know the tips, tactics, and strategies to propel your board further along in this list, okay? So before we carry on, I want to share a little bit of a story because it would not be a webinar if I didn't do a little bit of a story time. Okay, somebody? So I want to say, many of you guys know I used to work for an amazing youth organization before starting working at Givebutter. And honestly, my time there was the thing that propelled my love for working in the nonprofit sector. But I got one of the main things that I worked on during my time there, spent over 3.5 years there, was working on building boards. We had a national governing board, but we also were across the country. So we built local advisory boards from coast to coast. And one of the things that when I left the organization, I kept thinking to myself, man, I really want to know how these boards are going to do in the future. And I am so happy to announce that 2 years later, almost 2 years later, I just got a message, one of the best messages from the current executive director and one of the chairs of the organization, letting me know that they have one of their biggest fundraisers ever last week. And it was all run by the board, 100% board run. And I took a step back and I was like, wow, this is the work. And I want to let you guys know, and I want to let each of you know that sometimes when you're doing this hard, entrenched, deep work of building your board, you are planting seeds that you may never even see the fruit of. You are planting seeds that you may never see the fruit of. Sure, I can stand on the other side now and say, come on, somebody, we built these successful boards. But when I was in the middle of it, those boards did not feel so successful, okay? I was calling, I was texting, I was emailing, I was asking, I was just praying someone would show up to the board meeting, okay? But now the things that you're putting in place today will see the fruit for your organization tomorrow. You are building a long-term legacy, and that is the significance. That is the importance of a board. So sometimes it might feel like you're pulling your hair out and you're grinding teeth and you're thinking about building your board. But I want to tell you that this is the work. This is the importance of building an active, a passionate, and engaged board, because eventually the work can happen without you. And that is what we're working towards, okay? So I'm super excited because we're going to dive deep today on all of those different things. I'm gonna stop talking, okay? But before I do, I want to introduce the one and only Sabrina Walker Hernandez. So Sabrina is from Edinburgh, Texas, okay? I didn't even know where Edinburgh was, but I know that Sabrina is like currently one of the mayors of Edinburgh, Texas, okay? She's the president and CEO of Supporting World Hope. Over 25 years of experience in nonprofit management, fundraising, leadership, and fun fact, the acronyms of her company's name are the acronyms of her own name, okay? So if y'all are ready for Sabrina to show up, can y'all say I'm ready in the chat? I wanna see who is ready. Who is ready to see and hear from the one and only Sabrina Walker? Come on, Casey's ready with 3 exclamations. That's what I like to see. Diego's ready. Anna's ready with all the Y's. Come on, Adrian's ready. Jillian's ready. Oh, someone said listo. Come on, somebody. And you know that's close to Edinburgh, Texas. Come on, somebody. I love it. Okay, well, with no further ado, Sabrina, can we see you, please? Sabrina, you're on mute.
I am on mute. You know, that is like the anthem for the last couple of years. So, you know, we had to play that anthem. That's what that was about. But hi, everyone. How are y'all doing?
Sabrina, I am so excited and so happy to have you here. Your story, everything that you represent really goes and says, hey, I'm going to actually take my experience and I'm going to put my experience into building a better board. I love all of that.
Yes, I am so excited about presenting this topic. I see a couple people in the chat that I know. I saw Andrea out there. Andrea Pitts, hey girl. I actually love her. So I just had to do that shout out really quick. I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay, Floyd?
More than okay.
So space and grace is my motto. So we've tested this. We practiced this. Hopefully you see the screen. If you give me a thumbs up or something, let me know. If everybody sees what I see, I think the tech worked on my end. And so again, my name is Sabrina Walker Hernandez. A little bit about me. I studied political science and public administration. I obtained a nonprofit management certification from Harvard Business School. And for the last 25 years, as mentioned, I've worked in the nonprofit industry in direct services, operation, and executive leadership. Now, just a little bit about my story. In 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer and felt that I needed to retire. Cancer, guys, you are nonprofit founders, executive directors, CEOs. I did it for 20 years. Stress will manifest itself if you don't take care of yourself. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. But as I was sitting in a hospital room, I thought I need to help those people that are sitting in the seat right now. And that's why I launched my company, Supporting World Hope. I launched it to help nonprofit professionals and small businesses build relationships that convert into increased revenue, because I had a lot of information in my head, a lot of training under my belt, and I wanted to share that. So what I do is I do workshops, I do board retreats, webinars, coaching, and consulting. And I'm just going to encourage you to look me up on my website at supportingworldhope.com to see some of those things that is offered. But Today, we're talking about boards. And now, see, I'm one of those crazy people. I actually love boards of directors. They're really critical to organizations, but I understand they can be a pain as well for some. And so the goal of this presentation today is, one, that you understand the role of the board in resource development and fundraising. And then two, you learn how to engage them in each of those roles. And then three, know how you as staff can support the board in resource development and fundraising. And so we're going to be talking about a couple of things. But first, what I want to say is that each board member has a role. The board of directors has a role, and their role is to give generously, to be an advocate for the organization, and to participate in resource development. And so that's it. That is one of their roles. Now, that's easier said than done. So let's talk about giving generously. This sometimes a lot of people don't have that requirement of where their board gives. And so you have to think about that. The board members, when they are elevated to your board of directors, they're not a committee member, they're not a volunteer on that level. They are your board of directors. And so they have to bring their time, their talent, and their treasure. And one does not substitute for the other. And so they need to give generously by making their own personal gift, because it's hard to go out and ask someone else to do something that you're not willing to do. And it shows a commitment, and it will make them a much better fundraiser, because it is easier to say, join me in supporting this organization. Your board of directors is the family of your organization. And as the family, they should support your organization. Now, if you are a nonprofit board that does not have your board giving in this place, this is a conversation that needs to be had. And if you're just starting out with your board, it's a conversation that needs to be had up front, and it needs to be had during the recruitment process. People need to understand that. So again, to facilitate board giving, talk about it during the recruitment process. Don't fall victim to, well, I don't want to talk about that, or fundraising during when I'm talking about getting board members because I'm going to scare them away. Well, you might need to scare them away, because that's what they need to bring to the table. And to be honest, the people that you want are the people that want to hear that information so that they can make an educated decision about whether to join your board. You cannot be scared to talk about fundraising and then get disappointed when they get on your board and you expect them to fundraise. So don't fall into that trap. Have it and talk about it during the recruitment process. You need to have yearly individual meetings with board members just to check in with them. I would say with your board chair, those need to be monthly meetings. But to facilitate board giving, have at least once a year where you have a meeting with each individual board member. Because what will happen is you'll have an annual commitment form, because that's going to facilitate board giving, and people will fill out that form. I had my annual commitment form done every time at the same time every year, which was in January when they signed their conflict of interest forms. They also signed their annual commitment form. Now, once they sign that form, they're going to forget. And it's okay. We're humans. We're all doing so many things. There's a couple of things that you can do to facilitate that. One, again, is to meet with them annually, remind them. Two, which is what I like to do, is I like to also pass out a bank authorization form and just have it come out of their bank accounts monthly. Most board members are relieved by that. And the beauty of that is, as you know, we pay our light bill, our water bill, every bill from automatic bank drafts. We don't cancel those, right? We just leave them, they get set up. And I love that, because once even someone exits off the board, they still continue to give. You really have to upset them, or things really have to change in their life for them to cancel an ACH. So that's a little tip there. And then you just have to have an accountability process, right? So whether you are putting that in your board packet at the beginning of the board packet every month, where you are reminding people about their fundraising process, or whether you have a point system or whatever that looks like for you, there needs to be an accountability process. Now, the amount that people give, because that's always the question, well, what amount do you determine? Every board is different. Every single board is different. I hate to say this, I serve on 3 fundraising boards. Now, for the people that know me, I always say never serve on more than 1 fundraising board, because, it's a lot. And I'm telling you, it's a lot. But some opportunities came up and I had to. So one board is just $100. It's $100, and that's what I give, and I have it set up through the website with the credit card. Another board is $1,500. That is their gift level. That's what I pay. And another board, they don't have a set amount. They say give according to your means. And so those are the three options. You just establish an amount, put a system in place, a reminding system in place, or you can say give according to your means. And the whole goal for you then is to have 100% giving. I will say the give according to your means. I've done it that way. And some people don't like that because they freeze because they have to make a decision. They just want you to tell them how much it is, and then they go from there and they make the plan to follow through from there. So you have to set that up with your board. For the board of directors that I managed, ours was $500. So again, you notice like 4 different options I gave there: $100 option, $1,500 option, a $500 option, give according to your means. So every organization is different, but the goal is 100% of those organizations have where board members are making personal commitments. And that is the point of that. And then number 2, board members should be an advocate. They should share their personal stories. They should spend time in the nonprofit, and they should have an elevator speech. And so an elevator speech is a great exercise that you can do during a board meeting where you just have everybody come together and agree on actually what it is, what are we going to say when people ask about our organization. And it gets the name elevator speech because you can communicate what your organization does from traveling from one floor to floor 2 on an elevator, or from floor 2 down to the lobby. That's the elevator speech. So spend some time making sure that your boards are great advocates and that they're sharing stories. And we'll talk about that later. And give them some time to volunteer in your organization, some hands-on volunteer, so they can have some stories, firsthand stories to share. And use your board meeting as a time to craft the elevator speech. This is going to build great teamwork. And then number 3, the dreaded fundraising. Board members have to participate in fundraising and resource development. It is the dirty F word. It's the word you don't want to talk about during recruitment because you're scared you're going to scare off some board members. You got to talk about fundraising. But how you talk about fundraising may be different, because when board members hear fundraising, let's just put it out there. They think they're going to be begging, and then nobody wants to beg. They don't like to hear no. I'm uncomfortable asking for money. I don't like to ask my friends or family for money. And that one always makes me giggle, because I'm like, if they're not your friends or friends of strangers, then who's left? Or this is the good one. I don't know any rich people. That one, people will say that constantly. People don't have to be rich to give. $2.73 a day is $1,000 for the year. And so people, again, do not have to be rich to give. If you know anything about giving, the highest percent of people who give, the income level is they are poor. So you need to really rethink how you think about giving. But at the same time, nobody gets on your board because they want to fundraise. But we expect all board members to fundraise. And you ain't even talking about it during recruitment. So where you fail, and where we all fail, is expecting great results from our board members with no training whatsoever. You recruit them, you don't want to talk about fundraising because you don't want to scare them, and then you bring them on your board, and then there's no training in place that says, how do we do this? What do we talk about? You don't equip them, you don't do any of those things. And so you have to educate your board. You have to develop a strategic plan for their involvement. You can't just keep asking them to solicit their list. You get frustrated when you do that. They don't know what to do, and it's not strategic, and it's not going to motivate them. It's not going to increase their willingness to be involved, or to be engaged, or to be passionate, or to be motivated. All those words that you said you wanted from your board members. So you have to make sure that your board understands that fundraising, and when you talk to them in recruitment, they understand that fundraising is a part of being on that board. But fundraising is about more than asking for money. Fundraising is a donor-centered process. It's thanking the donor. It's getting the donors to events. It's advocating for the donors. It's cultivating. It's learning about the donors. It's all of those things. And I know I'm a process person. I sat in your seat. We only have so much time. And so as being a process person, I sat down and I said, okay, where do I need to put my time with my board in order to get what I need around fundraising? And so this is the formula, and I hope this formula changes your life because it changed mine. 10% of fundraising is identifying. That's identifying who your potential donors are, getting that list of names. 10% of fundraising is qualifying. You got your list of names. Now, from those list of names, how many of those people have the ability to give, or how many of those people have the affinity towards my mission? Just because they have money doesn't mean they're passionate about your mission. People are passionate about different things. Some people are passionate about education. Some people are passionate about health-related issues. Some people are passionate about animals. That's why you spend time dwindling down your list to identify the best people. And then 60% of fundraising is cultivation. That's building relationships. 5% of fundraising is asking for money. That's only 5%, but that is the piece that gets everybody heart pat-a-pat. Pat-a-pat, pat-a-pat. That is the piece that you don't want to talk about doing recruitment. And then 15% of fundraising is saying thank you. So, and that's maintaining relationships. So 75% of fundraising is relationships, building those relationships and maintaining those relationships. And if you want to engage your board to help you with fundraising, have them focus on relationships, 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 relationships. Give them a choice that taps into their strengths. Don't worry about the 5% of asking for money. Like there's some things, like I said, that's non-negotiable. 100% of your board members should be making a personal, significant gift to the nonprofit. But you have to start out knowing and understanding that fundraising process, and you need to offer a range of various options to your board and ones that play into their strengths. So, door openers. That is in that area of identifying and qualifying. Board members can participate in the fundraising process by opening the door to the eventual ask. You received a list generator, and if you didn't receive it, we'll get it to you. But door openers can identify potential donors. They can build relationships with the prospects. They generate interest in the organization, and they can show the prospect what the organization is all about, the history, the programs, and the finances. Now I can hear my skeptics in the audience already. And they're rolling their eyes like, whatever. I'm going to tell you, one of my top fundraisers was a door opener, and she never asked for money, but she helped us raise over $14 million. How do you say? She was a door opener. She introduced us to, and let me just tell you, her name is Millie Smith, and I speak Millie's name. I think she's wonderful. She's still a very good friend of mine. She served on the board for a while. It was BSA, which is the back office of a bank. So, and they study fraud. So you can imagine the type of personality. But Millie introduced us to the bank owner, not the bank president, but the bank owner. And as a result of meeting with and developing that relationship and nurturing that relationship with the bank owner, it resulted in the bank, one, providing board members to our board, 2 board members over the last 20 plus years. Each of those board members had to raise $5,000 each. It allowed the board president to serve as our capital campaign chair, and our capital campaign raised $12 million. I got to fly, guys. I got to fly in a private plane to visit a foundation that had told us no for our capital campaign. And I got to fly in the bank's private airplane to go visit with that foundation. And that resulted in a $355,000 check. First of all, I was very happy. I got to fly in a plane, the private plane, which I had never done before. But all of this was because Millie introduced us to the bank's owner, and she didn't stop there. Every time there was something happening at the club, she made sure she updated them. She made sure she massaged that relationship. She made sure that they knew the impact of their dollars and their investment. And anytime we had any marketing that needed to be done or pass out information to the community, the bank said, sure, you can put it in our drive-through and we can pass it out to the community. I happen to be in a service-oriented organization, and we highlighted a week of our service, and each of the bank tellers wore buttons that said, ask me about this organization. And so you can't pay for that. That's millions of dollars. And that's from a door opener who never asked for a dime. So board members can serve as great fundraisers in the capacity of door opener. Cultivator.
Really quick, Sabrina, I just want to jump in because what you said was just honestly so poignant, right? And I really want to make sure that people don't miss this, right? This person was able to, because they opened up a door for you, that resulted in millions and millions and millions of dollars raised. Now, I want to be so mindful because in the beginning of this chat, people were talking about all the things that you were saying. I want someone who's engaged. I want someone who's passionate. I want someone who's wealthy. That one still makes me chuckle. But it's true. We want all of these different things, but sometimes we're looking at the end result as opposed to the internal passion for the organization.
Yes.
And that is specifically what you were talking about earlier on. You need to find someone who's actually passionate about your cause, not just someone who's going to write you a check, because I promise you, there is enough money in the world for you. There's enough money in the world for your organization. There's enough money in the world to fund your cause and your mission. But in terms of the people who are passionate about your mission, that is few and far between. And we need to focus on finding those people, cultivating those relationships. And when those doors open, those are doors that won't be shut. So
exactly. Thank you, Floyd, for the
so
amen. So cultivator, just like Floyd said, people give to people. At the end of the day, donors, they want to trust, like, and know the organizations that they're supporting. So remember, 60% of fundraising is cultivation. That is building the relationship before you even ask for money. Your board members can be great cultivators by taking people out to lunch, making phone calls, inviting them to events, getting them to come into tours of your organization if you happen to be facility-based. There's asking them for advice. There's a million ways that you can cultivate relationships and have your board members cultivate those relationships. If you are a service-based organization, getting them in to do a hands-on service project, having that board member invite them in to do a hands-on service project. It's not just inviting them to the gala. Some people, their love language is hands-on service. And so you need to figure that out. Have those multiple prongs, ways of really engaging people and cultivating those relationships. And that's what your board members can do. It referenced a 5x5 plan. 5x5 simply is this. You've identified your board, the potential donors, right? You have a list. You use the list generator. You have a list. You've narrowed it down. You've qualified them. Now what you want to do is have a board member, one board member, be assigned to 5 accounts, which is 5 potential donors. And then that one board member needs to touch those 5 accounts at least 5 times in a year. So Sabrina, I'm your account. I'm on your list. I'm one of your prospective donors. So now what, as board member, Andrea, what are you going to do? Andrea is going to call me. She's going to send me a card in the mail, a handwritten card. She's going to, if they have an event, she's going to invite me to an event. She's going to invite me in for a tour of organization, or when she goes out and makes a delivery to a patient, she's going to invite me in. So I'm a part of that process. She's going to call me and ask me for advice. Those are the 5 touches. That's what you're doing. You're cultivating. You're bringing them along. That's where board members need to spend their time. It's not asking for money, because when it comes to asking for money, I had a board of 21. I consider my board of 21, the majority of them, except for 3 fearless ladies, they were sidekicks. They were my wingmen. They cultivated the relationship. We got the meeting for the ask. We went in. They were there because they had developed that relationship. But when it came down to the face-to-face solicitation, I was the one, as the CEO, who said, will you consider an investment of $10,000 in our organization? If they do cultivation right, then that's you are more than halfway there. 80% of the time, you've cultivated them, you've set up the meeting, you've told them why you're coming. You know, we're calling because we want to come in and talk about how you can get more involved in our organization. They already know why you're coming. They're taking the meeting. It's 80%. I would almost say 90. But let's say 80% going to be a yes. My job as a CEO is to utter that statement that makes everybody's heart flutters. There's no way around that as a CEO sometimes. You just got to put on your big girl pants and go in there and do it. Big girl or big boy pants and just do it. Again, because I had 21 board members and only 3 ladies didn't mind uttering that phrase. So I had to swallow my butterflies and get in there and do it. But if cultivation is done right, it's an easy ask. You know, you've researched, you learned about them, you know their passionate points because you've cultivated them, you've researched them, you built that relationship with them. Now you're just setting up the meeting, make the ask. And then after the ask, you got to thank them. I do not know why in the nonprofit world, where we are the heart people, we fail to say thank you properly. Fundraising is not over once you receive the donation. It is proper manners to say thank you. And sometimes what we do is we get the gift and we send that automatic thank you from our system if they give online, and that's it. We don't do anything else. That is not cool. That is not great, because the final stage of fundraising is stewardship. That is 15% of fundraising. That's thanking the donor and maintaining that relationship. And board members can be instrumental in that. They can send donors a thank you card or make the thank you card. Call or let donors know that their gift was appreciated and it made a difference in the organization. And I always say it's a simple way you can get board members involved in that 15%, especially when it comes to cards. In your meeting, your board meeting, have a script and some pens. Pass out the script, the pens, and your note cards. Have them address the envelope, write the script in their handwriting on the note card. Do not address it to anyone, and sign their name. And you collect those at the end of every board meeting. Have them do 2 or 3. You have those on your desk. When the gift comes in, you add the donor's name, you add your name, and you send it off. And that's going to get a way for them to say thank you within a matter of time. And if you are meeting virtually, because I have a board that meets virtually, I tried to mail them the pens and the cards. It didn't work. So we invested in a system called Send Out Card, where it looks like your handwriting. And we had one person that goes in and sends out those cards. You can automate that. And it even looks like your handwriting, and you can customize the cards with pictures. There is no reason why we can't properly thank and maintain these relationships. And here's another little tip that I'm going to give you. If you don't have a stewardship plan right now, Here is a quick stewardship plan that you can implement. For every 0 that someone gives, that is 1 touch. So if they give $50, that's 1 0, they get a handwritten thank you card. If they give $500, that's 2 zeros, they get a thank you card, and they can get a phone call. If they give $5,000, that's 3 zeros, they get a thank you card, a phone call, a video, so forth. So that's a very simple stewardship plan, and you can get your board members involved in that stewardship plan. I had 2 or 3 board members that when a person gave a major gift, and for us, anything over $500 was considered a major gift, they received an email from me with that donor's name, how much they gave, and their cell phone number. And they were responsible for picking up the phone and calling that person and saying, thank you. I gave them a script, exactly what to say. And if they don't answer, you leave that message, and it made a huge difference. People want to know that they are appreciated. Now, you can't assign every board member to this task. Let's just be honest. You can't. You need to pick the right board members, the ones that's got the follow through, the ones that you know that you can trust with this process. So know your board members. But there is a way to engage board members' hearts, minds, and passion for fundraising. And it's your role as the CEO to figure out that way. How are you going to focus your board? How are you going to inspire your board? How are you going to ready your board? And how are you going to engage your board? And so I'm going to give you some tips right now. So how do you focus your board? You focus your board by starting out your board meetings with mission moments. Mission moments are going to look different for every organization. Again, I was a youth serving organization. So every board meeting, I set aside 5 minutes. We're talking 5 minutes. I had a youth come in, say who they were, what their age was, what school they went to, why did they come to our after school program. The board asked 1 or 2 questions. They answered the question. Kids say the darndest thing. And that's a story that my board retained. Why did I do that? 1, I'm making my board members better storytellers, and I'm making them advocates and ambassadors and fundraising, because when they go out to their networking events, to the Rotary or the Chamber or wherever they're going, they're not going to remember stats that you give them, but they will remember little Floyd's story when he came into the board meeting and told about the time that he was able to have dinner because this organization provided dinner, and he was there every night until 7 o'clock because his mommy worked. He's going to remember those stories. They're going to remember those stories. We're storytelling people. So feed your board members stories. Again, if you're a zoo or an animal shelter, bring in a pet. If you're a zoo and you have snakes, and I don't like snakes, y'all, I do not like them, but bring one in. Why don't I like snake? Because I never really met a snake, right? But if you bring that into the board, or when I do meet them, I'm screaming like at the top of my lungs. I don't give them a chance. So bring one into the board meeting. Have the board members pet the snake, talk about the snake, do all this. Then they're going to go out and they're going to tell their friends and family, I went to a board meeting. This is, well, they got to feel the snake, and this is what snakes are. Da, 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 da. I serve on a museum board. Every board meeting, they bring in some historical piece and put it. Every board meeting, I get a different story around the room, and they give us 15 minutes before the board meeting, and we go and we read all the stories and the history around the room. Those are the mission moments that I'm talking about. You got to focus on real outcomes and results in your meeting with a program report. And I'm not talking about a dull program report. I'm talking about pictures of your clients that says we fed this many people, or we served this many youth, or we visited this many clients in the hospital, or we gave out this many baskets. Begin it with a mission moment, with a live person or a picture or a video, and end it with, again, warm and fuzzy. End it with pictures, happy clients, with the numbers and statistics, you're going to build advocates that way and ambassadors that way. You're feeding them stories. You got to have to inspire your board. You're going to have to make resource development fun, and you have to have a plan. And so here's an idea. And this is, I'm giving you things that worked for me. Don't stop there. Keep going. It's an idea. Look, I've been in this game for 20 years. I'm giving you what worked, right? But it can be better. So let's say inspire your board. I sent out this thing called Board Buzz. And I focused it was a weekly, like just the internal news report, a newsletter to my board. And all it did was highlight board members. Thank you, Ella, for attending that superintendent meeting with me. Thank you, Eddie, for reaching out to Judge ABC. Thank you, Todd, for going to this grant foundation with me. And I sent that out to all my board members. Why did I do that? I did that because I wanted other board members to see it is not just coming into this monthly meeting. It is other things that's happening before the monthly meeting and after the monthly meeting. And these are people that are actively engaged in that process. And you can be too. It is not just restricted to that monthly meeting. So it's like that positive peer pressure. And eventually they're gonna be like, well, why ain't my name ever on this list, right? And so, or they might be okay with that. But then that's when you pick up the phone and you call them and you say, hey, I know you know such and such. Do you think you can reach out to them? It's not a foreign concept to them because they know that other board members have been doing those types of things. And so have a plan and have fun. My board within itself created a matrix where they tracked board attendance. Well, they created the matrix. Let me be very clear. They created the matrix and I tracked. Okay, so they got a point every time they attended a board meeting. They got a point for every $1,000 that they raised. They got a point for all different things. And the whole goal was to get 15 points by the end of the year. And we looked at this chart quarterly, and it was coded red, green, and yellow based on quarter. If you were in the green, their goal was to raise $5,000 each, I think. And if you were in the green, that means you did well this quarter. You know, if you keep it next quarter and the next 3 quarters, you're gonna hit your $5,000. If you in the yellow, you almost made it. If you were in the red, the next event is coming up or the next thing is coming up and you got to get yourself into gear. But at the end of everybody who reached their point goal, we had a board member who stepped up, who took those people out to a nice steak dinner at one of the restaurants that everybody wanted to go to, but you know that restaurant. And so they made it fun and they made it competitive. You have to figure that out for your board. You also have to make sure you educate your board. You got to ready them. You got to have proper tools and trainings. You got to practice. If you want them to ask for money, which is only 5%, right? But if you have that board member to say, I'm willing to do it, you need to practice. You have to practice, get those nerves out. And you got to educate them on the donor cycle. Talk to them about 60% is cultivation, 15% is stewardship. Yes, Floyd.
This is amazing. Okay, this is amazing. I am like loving all of this stuff, and I'm seeing the chat and I'm seeing all the questions blow up. So I really wanted to be able to offer just a few minutes for us to be able to kind of go into some Q&A, if that's okay with you.
That is okay with me. We will have some time for Q&A. I think I got one more slide, or you want to do it right now?
No, I want to go at least to that green slide of what people can do and how they can start now.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, let's go to the what board members need from staff members to fundraise.
You're right here.
Yeah,
this
I love
one.
It. I love
okay. So this is what board members need from staff so they can fundraise easily and effectively. This is what they want for you. If you have asked board members, what do you want to be involved in fundraising? And this is what they say. So you need to equip them. You got to provide them education, and you got to share client stories. And that's why those mission moments and board trainings are so critical. You got to make it easy. You got to give them scripts. If you want them to post on social media, you got to send them the post. You got to tell them exactly what to say. Yes, you have to do this. You got to send them sample letters and emails. It is okay. You know why I know it's okay? Because I have 1,001 people come up to me now after 20 years and say how they appreciated serving on my board and how they appreciated me. I thought I was being bossy, and they were like, well, I was, but they were like, no. When you called me, it was good, because then that focused me, and it said, okay, Sabrina's calling, I better get to moving. And then I would set aside an hour to get the things done that I needed to get done. So don't be afraid. Some founders and CEOs, well, how can I tell my board what to do? That's what you do. You manage your board. You tell them what to do, but you equip them with it. You be accountable. You hold them accountable for what they say they will do. And it's not a bad thing. So if you're sitting in a board meeting and Susie says she's going to follow up with Jack, you write that note down. And then after the board meeting, give it a day, you email Susie. Hey, Susie, you said you were going to follow up with Jack. Have you had that conversation? And Susie's going to be like, no, I forgot. Darn it. After the meeting, I got caught up in this and this. He said, that's okay. That's okay. Can you reach out to him and let me know what he says? A week's going to pass by. You're going to ask Susie again. And Susie might say, oh, I forgot. Let me do it right now. Let me do it right now. Let me do it right now. That's what's going to happen. So you say, okay. Then you're going to text Susie and you're going to say, hey, Susie, what did Jack say? You might not get a response, but then you ain't going to stop. You're going to pick up the phone, or you're going to email her again. Susie, what did Jack say? And then she's going to respond, because you have held her accountable for this. Yes, this is what you have to do. Why do you have to do this? Because people are busy. It is not personal. I just told you I serve on 3 fundraising boards. Who do you think gets my attention? The squeaky wheel. If you let me coast in the back, then you have set the standard, and I am going to coast in the back. It is human nature. So you have to be explicit. When you are recruiting your board members, you have to let them know what is expected of them, and you have to have that agreement in place. And the last thing that you need to do that's not here is you need to know your board's inventory. What does that mean? That is one of the reasons why you're meeting with your board members. You're getting to know your board members as well, because your board has inventory. They have inventory of people they know. They have inventory of connections they have. They have inventory of properties they own. Let me give you an example. I have a board member who owned a condo at South Padre Island. I had another board member who owned a ranch. I had another board member who had a timeshare in Mexico. So we got to get live auction items, right? And they are like, well, I don't know. I don't know how. I'm like, okay, Joe, you have a condo on the island. Would you be willing to bring that in for a live auction? Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought about that. Well, can you give me 2 ranch hunts? Yes. Your timeshare, how does that work? Can we use that? Yes. Board members don't know. You have to make that connection for them. And then you give them credit. So if that condo bought in $1,000 at the auction, then that's 1 point for them on the point chart. But you have to know their inventory. And the only way you're going to know their inventory is to get to know them personally. You got to also build and cultivate relationships with your board members. It can't just be in that 1 month meeting and that's it, right? And so hopefully it's also not your mother, brother, cousin, because that's a whole nother training. That's your board members can't be your mother, brother, cousin. Your board is your force multiplier. And if you have your mother, brother, cousin on your board, they know the same people you know. And your circle is not going to grow. The whole point, yeah, it's not going to grow. The whole point is to have different representation from different members of the community. So now what? Let's get through this because I want to leave some time for Q&A. So how do you get this started? You have a board retreat, right? Bring this up, talk about fundraising related jobs, have it around the room, have up cultivation, have up identifying, qualifying, and have different examples. And then have board members go around and put, what are they willing to do? You don't even have to put up there asking for money. You can put it up there. I did a board retreat. I had one lady said, I'll ask for money. I was like, hallelujah. But it rarely happens. Put it up around the room. Have them tell you what they're willing to do. And then you just make sure someone follows up with them. And then once you have that, you record all this task and you put it in your CRM system, your Givebutter system, right? And you follow through and you track and you report back on the progress. You let the board members know what the fruits of their labor is producing. And that, my friends, is how you get your board members engaged. Mission accomplished. They understand their role of the board in resource development and fundraising. You've learned how to engage your board in each of those roles, and you know how staff can support the board in resource development and fundraising. So Q&A time, Floyd. Let's talk about it.
I love it. I love it. If you want to stop sharing your screen, we could come back. But one of the things that I really love that you said was the idea of setting the tone, right? Like setting those expectations from the beginning and setting the tone, because if you are too afraid to follow up with your board member, how do you think they're going to feel about following up with another donor? You know what I mean? And I think that you also made the great point about the idea of really making this about relationships. If you want them to cultivate relationships with your board members. I love that. So we have so many questions, over 12 different questions. So what we're going to do, and what if you're okay with this, Sabrina, is I want to actually take some time after this session to record some of these answers, and I'll actually post them into the Facebook group. But two really key ones that I think that we should kind of dive a little bit deeper into. One is around recruitment. How do people actually start finding these people, finding these passionate people to start bringing them in? Because you talked about don't go into your immediate circle, but sometimes a lot of people only have their immediate circle. So how do you balance, starting where you're at versus finding more people who can be passionate about your cause and bringing them into the fold?
That's a good question. Yeah, I talk about don't mother, brother, sister me. I don't do that. You can do your sister or your brother if they bring a skill set to the table, right? So that's not a problem. So where do you find people? I tell CEOs, successful CEOs, you cannot run your organization from your desk. You just can't. You have to get out. You have to network. You have to get involved in the community. That's where you're going to find other people that are involved in the community, other people who already understand that concept of giving back. So whether that is becoming an ambassador at the chamber, or that's joining your local Rotary or Kiwanis, or that's going to the professional association mixers, you need to get out there and you need to surround yourself with different people. Now, what industries are really good about producing board members that I found is the banking industry. And that's because the banking industry is required to give back to their community. And so they're often looking for opportunities of service. So I always, at one point I had too many bankers on my board, so don't fall into that hole either. But bankers tend to be very receptive about serving on boards.
I love that. And then the last question I wanted to ask before we carry on is the idea about accountability and following up with people. So a lot of this, is a difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. You know what I mean? There is a certain amount of effort that has to be on the board's part. How do professionals keep their board members accountable? Should there be a penalty? Should they fire a board member? What should that look like?
Well, you can fire a board member. People don't believe that, but you can. But it is, you give again, people are busy, right? And so you make every effort to communicate with them. And you have to also communicate with them on the channels that they respond to. So that means you have to send out an email. You may have to find out someone else responds better to text. Someone else might respond better to WhatsApp. You just have to figure out their form of communication. Once you figure that out and you feed them the information and it still doesn't change, then it's up to it's you talking to your board chair, right? Because the board chair should be having these conversations with their peers, and you talking to them and saying, maybe this person didn't quite understand what we needed as a board member. and have that conversation with them, right? And so, and some people will still say, no, I still want to serve. I still want to serve. Well, you give them the opportunity, but if it doesn't happen, then at that point, yes, we call them, you plaque them and you thank them. You make a big deal about their exit. You give them a nice plaque and reward or departing gift, but it's time to go. And that's why board terms are important. When we brought on a new board member, people came in a 1-year board term slot, because that gave us a year to see if they were really about that life. And if they were not about that life, then we did not renew, and we just didn't move forward. So those are some of the strategies that you can use around that.
Ooh, Sabrina, you have been giving us the facts. If y'all can see, Sabrina is not new to this. She is true to this, okay? So can y'all give Sabrina some thanks in the chat if y'all liked this? If you thought this was good, let her know in the chat.
Thank you.
Sabrina, I'm amazed. I am so amazed. I am so grateful. Please stay on for a little bit afterwards. We're going to record all your questions, y'all. Y'all had so many great questions. So if something here didn't get answered, please feel free to add it to the Q&A, and we'll go over all of those, okay? Sabrina, thank you so much, okay?
Thank you.
Y'all, this blew me away, okay? This session was amazing. We have so much more. We're gonna keep the party going in the Facebook group. So if you are not in the Facebook group, please make sure you join. But before you guys go, I wanna let you all know our next webinar, okay? If y'all thought this one was good, we're gonna just keep the momentum going, okay? We are with the one and only Julia Campbell. We're gonna be talking about social media success in 20 minutes or less, okay? You guys don't wanna miss it. And we have some fun giveaways. All right. So y'all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for being a part of the Givebutter fam. We are grateful for each and every one of you. And here is to each and every one of your success and to board success. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.